Alright, today we're going to be using the Pythagorean theorem to solve for x on right triangles. The Pythagorean theorem, if you do not know, is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. This is what you will always be using when solving for a value on the right triangle. Any one of these can be used. Any one of these can be the thing you're solving for. C squared is always your hypotenuse. So if I draw a little right triangle right here, C is always this. A and B can be interchangeable. So these two can swap places. C will always be your hypotenuse. With that being said, we can take this problem over here, which is find the value of x in the triangle shown below. We have 6, 8, and x. So in this case, we can make a little duplicate over here. So we have 6, 8, and x. This can be our A, this can be our B, and our hypotenuse is always C. So we can take 6 squared plus 8 squared equals C squared, which in this case would be x. So we can just replace that with x, make that x squared. And so now from here, it's basic algebra that you've been doing for the past like half year. So 6 squared is 6 times 6, which is 36. 8 squared is 8 times 8, which is 64. And then we bring down our x squared. We can combine like terms since both of these are just regular coefficients. This will give us 3 plus 6 is 9. 6 plus 4 is 10. We carry the 1. 90 plus 10 is 100. 100 equals x squared. How do we get rid of the squared, you might ask? Well, let's say you have a regular equation like x plus 5 equals 2. You know how you have to like subtract 5 to get to isolate x? So the way you would do that is you would take the inverse of whatever the thing you're trying to get rid of is. So in this case, since we have a 5, the inverse of addition, so we're adding 5, the inverse of addition would be subtraction. Same for multiplication, the inverse of multiplication. The inverse of multiplication would be division. So knowing that, the inverse of a squared is a square root. If I were to take the square root of a number, squared, the square root and the power cancel out if it's a 2. If it was a 3, for example, you would have to use cube root to cancel it out. But there's no cube in this equation, so we don't really care about that. So now knowing that we need to take the square root of this, we can just do square root of 2. And then now we're just solving for the square root of 100, which is just what two numbers multiply to get to 100. In this case, it would be 10 and 10. We just only need one of those. And our final answer would be x equals 10. If we were to check 10 as our answer choice, hit check. We got it right. Next question. We'll do one more problem just so you get the hang of it. Just gonna delete everything here. Give me a second. Just gotta erase everything. All right. So we now have to solve for the x on this triangle. So we have x, 9, and 8. We'll make the bottom our A, and this one our B, this our C. So we have our C. This time we're not solving for hypotenuse. We're solving for one of the side angles, or just one of the side lengths, I should say. So in this case, we would take our A, we would take our A, B, and C and plug them into our equation, which in this case would be 8 squared plus x squared equals 9 squared. We just bring our x over from here. X is our B, so this also has to be our B. And then once again, basic algebra from here. 8 squared, 8 times 8, we already know is 64. We bring down our x squared. We do 9 squared. 9 times 9 is 81. We move our 64 to the other side by subtracting 64, or in this case, or also known as taking the inverse. 81 minus 64. We can't take 4 from 1, so we have to borrow a number. We have to borrow 10 from the 8. 11 minus 4 is 7. 6 minus 7, or 7 minus 6 is 1. X squared equals 17. Now, we just take the square root of that, and because this is a weird number, that you can't take two of the same whole number, and multiply them together to get it, we can just leave it like this. Unless they explicitly want you to simplify, you can leave your answer like this. So it would be x equals the square root of 17. Plug that into our Khan Academy, and we got it right. So now you know how to solve equations using the Pythagorean theorem. It's pretty simple. It's a little confusing at first when you don't really understand what it is. They make it look really confusing with like this whole equation. But the way I think about it is this: take side 1 plus side 2, side 2 squared, or yeah, side 2 squared equals hypotenuse squared. This is a lot easier for me to understand. You might be able to use this yourself, but that's how I remember it. But yeah, good luck on whatever problems you're working on. I hope you get them right.